Hello everybody, I hope you're having an amazing day. Today I would like to share my final thoughts on the We Knife Ray Laconico Evoke. This model is one that definitely caught my attention when it was first available for pre-order a month ago or so. It came and went multiple times, this specific colorway. This is the black stonewash with the tiger stripe flame ano. There are a couple variants available currently at the recording of this video, but I'm going to be pulling specs and what's still available off of Blade HQ because that's where I purchased my unit from. So this one is the higher end of the regular versions, and then of course We does their unnecessarily expensive Damascus and the more premium one. So this one is actually $227.50, and I'm gonna tell you guys right now, if you like how this looks, you will be happy. But if you're looking for a bargain or the most amount of bang for your buck, not so much. Actually, just today, I saw Metal Complex's review of this exact same colorway and variant, and he wasn't too happy with it. He was very wishy-washy. And he had a lot of really good points that I definitely would second for sure. But let me just talk about really quick what is still available. So the regular ones are actually $219. So there's a little bit of a difference because you're getting the flame ano and the black wash. The other variants, there's a satin silver blade, black titanium, bronze hardware. There is a black stonewash, bronze titanium, and bronze hardware. Same price, $219. There's my variant. Unfortunately, it's out of stock at the moment, but it has come back once already and out of stock again. It's very popular colorway, so I'll say it's probably gonna come back again. And then the other out of stock variant is actually the satin blade, blue titanium handles, blue hardware, and that one's actually pretty darn nice, but I'm not a fan of satin, so whatever. Then they have their crazy ridiculous like super fancy one that's like almost $600. It's absolutely ridiculous. I wouldn't pay anywhere near that for this design, that's for sure, nor those materials. But let's get into some specs here. So, manufactured in China by We Knife Co. Wonderful knife company, for sure. Putting a lot of good stuff. Overall length, 8.02, so it is definitely a full-size plus knife, in my opinion. Blade length, 3.48, so watch out if you have knife, blade restriction laws in your area. Blade width, 1 inch. Blade thickness, 0.13. Blade material, CPM 20 CV. They're calling this a clip point. It does kind of look like a clip point, but this is actually flat. It doesn't scoop up like how a traditional clip point would look. I would say that this is more of a drop clip, whatever kind of thing. I think it looks great, but definitely it's not going to do that great at more utilitarian tasks like, utilizing that tip because it is very straight out for the most part. But it's better at more puncturing tasks, which I typically don't ever really interact with, things that I would need to puncture. But I have this and I sought out this model for its overall design. Let's see, weight 3.76 ounces, which not bad for the size of a knife. Right hand only. It's unfortunate because you can actually operate this knife quite comfortably left-handed. I have my finger on the lock bar and it's actually very, very comfortable. Check this out. Thumb on the lock bar, flick, and it's getting out there. And then the front flip too. It's my left hand, and right hand, same exact thing. I keep my finger on the lock bar further up, right behind the, right over here, and it still comes out just fine. So I think it kind of sucks that you can't reverse pocket clip. I suppose for keeping the overall design aesthetic, I understand why. Ceramic bearings, ceramic detent ball, typical good stuff comes from Wii. And of course the designer, Ray Laconico. So with that out of the way, I put my laptop away now. Let's get into a couple good visual size comparisons to help you guys see what this really compares to. So I got 6 knives over here. Let's start with my Spyderco knives. This is my Paramilitary 2. Very, very close in size. If you're a fan of the PM2, you're probably gonna like this guy. Of course, very different design, but at least the way that the blade is shaped, honestly, pretty darn similar. Para 3, of course, the Evoke is bigger than the Para 3, but same amount of handle length pretty much. And my PM2 still has horrendous lock stick. I don't know what to do at this point, but whatever. Let's do my Benchmades. This is my 940 Osborne. Very close in both handle and cutting edge. Just different design. And my bug out over here. It looks very similar to my bug out. It's just a little bit larger. And if you hear all that noise and stuff, that is my cat and my puppy going at it, because it's not like they do that all day long already. So, but they love doing it when I'm, trying to have a quiet environment for video taking purposes. Here is my Civi Elementum. Definitely a lot bigger than that. And my Demco 80 20.5. So hopefully this gives you guys a good rough visual of what this knife is coming at in just overall flat dimension, but thickness up against the Para 3. Yeah, the Para 3 is just a little bit thicker. This is definitely a slim feeling knife in the hand, but it's comfortable because everything is well rounded off. Yeah. All right, so I do have actually 2 other knives that I pulled from my collection that share a lot of the same design aesthetic. So I guess we'll bring them up after me talking about this thing. So I love this knife. I think it's a great knife, and this is actually going to be replacing 2 knives in my collection because of how much I enjoy this thing. Now, as I mentioned before, because of the blade shape profile, it's not something that I'm going to be gravitating towards when it comes to typical utilitarian tasks, because that point comes up so far or straight out. But I have it because the design, I like it. I think it's beautiful design. I think it's executed quite well. Let's see. So hardware on this, all bronze, T8, everything beautifully machined, wonderful. There's a little lanyard post back there, nice and shiny, nice and clean. Matching flamed titanium backspacer there, even here at the bottom. Perfectly centered, came perfectly centered. I have taken apart this knife twice already. Cleans up very well and very easy to put back together, as all Wii's are. I have sharpened it once and it took a wonderful, wonderful edge. And just take a look at that blade. Nice. This is the only marking on the blade, R. Laconico, just the designer. And of course you have the little Wii decorative pivot on the right side of the knife. Nicely executed. There is a lockup. You can see the hardened steel insert right there. It also acts as a over travel stop. Got a little tab that you can see right there, so you don't hyperextend that frame lock. And the relief cuts for lock bar tension are on the outside versus the inside. Doesn't bug me, I don't mind it. but I do still think that on the inside, it would look a little bit better. But you typically only see that on like super premium knives. One thing that I do enjoy about this knife, and I'm not the biggest fan of front flippers, but this is actually done quite well. Even though the jimping is on the larger side and doesn't really wrap around the top, it's positioned in such a way, and the knife it's shaped in such a way that I can get it, and it's quite comfortable actually. I will sometimes prefer to actually, you know, slow roll it out or even push out the thumb studs kind of in a slow roll fashion, because the detent on this knife is extremely well tuned. Now, may just be my unit, but it hasn't changed pretty much since I got it, and I like that. I enjoy that consistency. It's not super drop shutty, even though it has ball bearings, but I need to have this knife tight to the point where it doesn't move around, and it's rock solid. It's not going anywhere up or down, side to side, no pivot lash or anything like that. It's great. But if I wanted it really drop shutty, I would have to loosen it, which would then compromise the I guess the tension being put on it, and it would actually wiggle. Not significantly, but it would probably have as much wiggle as you would typically get from a bug out or a 940, because of how their axis lock is, how it's designed. You're gonna get a little bit of wiggle out of those guys. And I'm okay with having this feel a little bit stiffer and having to put a little bit more intent behind those thumb studs. They're very comfortable, as I said before, placed in the right spot. The access right here, it's not super generous, but it is more than enough. Nicely rounded off. There is no jimping. It would have been nice if there was just a little bit, because it is thin. Like it feels thin, but it feels soft at the same time, if that makes any sense. Probably not. But in my experience, this is a wonderful knife. And if you like the design, I'd say go for it. It's performed rather well in my time having it, and this is going to be a lovely addition to the collection for now. So there is that. Now I'm going to talk about two knives out of my collection. One of them from Ray Laconico, one of them actually a in-house design, but looks kind of like it would come from Ray Laconico anyway. And you probably guessed it, my Wii Esprit and the Wii Subjugator. Now, you could probably get where I'm going with this thing. I don't really need to have these two knives in my collection now that I have the Evoke, because right, this is a Ray Laconico design. They all have thumb studs, exactly the same position and everything. And while the Evoke is just a hair longer than all of them, I don't see that much of a difference. And if anything, the Evoke kind of met my my craving to actually chop off the flipper tab on my Subjugator here, because I love being able to reverse flick this beast. This thing is truly a hard use folding knife, probably one of the hardest in my collection. It's just, it's hard to explain without, you know, passing this on to somebody and just having them like get a full grip on this thing. I do believe that it is a little bit thicker than the Evoke. Yeah, it's just a little bit thicker. While the Evoke is well rounded off on the sides, it's primarily flat. Same thing with the Subjugator, it's primarily flat, but where it's rounded off is a whole lot heavier. It's probably like double the amount of surface area that's actually rounded off. And you can actually see how it, you know, the lines and everything on there. But they're both very comfortable. But I would say that the Evoke is noticeably thinner. Now, having that flipper tab there kind of gets in the way of you having a comfortable purchase if you want to get a little bit closer up to the edge there. But the Evoke doesn't have a flipper tab. I can get close if I really want to. And another thing in comparison to the subjugator is the subjugator is gonna have just a little bit better cutting performance, just because it's flatter further up, and I believe the blade is actually taller. Not by much, but I mean, they're pretty darn close. It really just comes down to preference and design language. Do you care for thumb stud flipper, or do you want, front flipper and thumb studs? The detent on my subjugator is extremely heavy. It is broken in at this point, I will say. It is very smooth. It is well centered for the most part. I had some centering issues where it was more to the show side or the right side, but now it's definitely a lot better centered. And then this thing. So let's look at the jimping on this in comparison. So the jimping on the subjugator, right about there, feels normal. If I'm a little bit closer up, feels good. So on this guy, it's a lot further back, which I think it's a little silly. And as you can see, it's still flat all the way up here until you have this area that's knocked down. Why didn't they just go all the way? It's a design thing, most likely. But you know what? It's all right. So now, getting the subjugator out of here for a sec, the Wii Esprit. Well, this is a wonderful knife, and I was craving it for the longest. Went out of stock, finally came back like 6 months later, and I got one. And I had my little honeymoon phase with it, and now I think I'm kind of over it. It's not something that I pick up often anymore, and I didn't even use it a whole lot. I wanted it just to say I have it, just to be able to experience it. But out of these three, this one, the Esprit, is the one with the worst cutting performance. And me actually using my knives, yeah, I'd rather stick with something that has, medium cutting performance. So with the Evoke, I have design language, the looks, the aesthetic, and I have, what I would consider mid-grade cutting performance. These all share the same blade material. This one's uncoated satin. These have the same finish on both of them. So I've decided that I'm going to be posting my Wii Esprit and my Wii Subjugator on nafsale.com. They're both very well loved and taken care of knives. I've done the absolute best maintenance that I can on them. And yeah, that's it. I will be linking down everything down in the description, but at the end of everything, I'd say if you like how the Evoke looks, go for it. If you don't care for just paying a little bit more for the Tiger Stripe Flame Anno, then get the other one. There are 3 other variants available, and the 2 that are most likely going to come back in stock, because when things sell out so fast, they're probably going to make more. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and that's it. Take care.